The footage you're about to see comes from ordinary fishermen, men and women doing ordinary jobs, night trolling, routine net fishing, trying to make a living from the sea. None of them expected to capture what they did. None of them were prepared for what the ocean would reveal. Across these clips, we see strange humanoid sea creatures. Creatures often described as mermaids. Some fight with inhuman strength. Some observe with unsettling intelligence. Some seem to understand far more than any animal should. And almost all of them escape.
Hold down! Shoulders, now! That's right, she's twisted! She's gonna bite! Watch your hands! Don't slip it, hang on, get it tighter! Tighter! Almost got her! Hold still, damn it! Cleats on, tail's tied! Secure the shoulders, she's not done!
The first incident occurred in the Bering Sea near Alaska. The date? March 14th, 2025. 3 experienced fishermen, men who had spent over 30 years working these waters, were conducting routine deep-sea net fishing late in the evening. Weather conditions were deteriorating rapidly. A storm system was moving in from the northwest, and the crew was racing to complete one final catch before conditions became impossible. They had no idea this would be their last cast. As they began pulling the net, they noticed something alarming. It was far heavier than expected, far heavier than any normal catch. At first, they assumed it was tangled debris or perhaps a massive fish. But then, the net began moving. On its own, with deliberate, coordinated motion, what surfaced would change these men's lives forever. A creature emerged from the dark water, greenish, slick-skinned, with a distinctly humanoid upper body. Its face was contorted in rage. Its mouth opened, and it released a sound somewhere between a scream and a shriek that echoed across the deck. The creature began thrashing with alarming violence, gripping the net with a strength that seemed impossible. Its limbs, which looked disturbingly human, moved with predatory precision. As the men tried to control it, keep it contained, the creature pulled back, harder, stronger. One by one, the fishermen lost their footing. One by one, they were pulled toward the rail. The creature moved with impossible coordination, as if deliberately trying to drag them overboard, as if it understood what it was doing. The footage ends abruptly. All 3 men fell into the freezing Bering Sea. The water temperature that night was 34 degrees Fahrenheit. Days later, the boat was recovered. It was drifting alone in open water, its engines still running. The deck showed signs of struggle, blood stains, torn equipment, but the men? No bodies were ever found. The Coast Guard officially classified it as an accident, a tragic case of rough seas claiming inexperienced workers. But the fishermen who knew these men knew better. They weren't inexperienced, they were veterans, and they never would have been careless enough to be pulled overboard by a net. 6 months later, on the Pacific coast of Mexico, a very different encounter was captured on video. This one is perhaps more mysterious because it suggests something even more disturbing about these creatures. The Gulf of California. Just before sunrise, a small fishing crew was trolling shallow waters, looking for squid to sell at the morning markets. It should have been a routine night.
Hold her! I got the shoulder! She's slipping! Get that rope under! I'm trying! Tail's like a damn log! Lock it in! Jesus, look at those teeth! Get that thing down! Rope's on! Pull! Pull! She's fighting! Hold her steady! It's coming loose! Tighten it!
Back! Lens back!
Got it! Keep her down! Keep her down!
Their net snagged something small, but remarkably aggressive. As they began pulling it up, the crew expected to find an octopus, perhaps an aggressive eel. What they found instead made them question the boundaries of biological possibility. A mermaid-like creature was briefly visible, tangled and struggling. It had pale skin, long hair that moved in the water like strands of kelp, and what appeared to be a distinctly human face. And it was fighting to escape with shocking intelligence and strength. One fisherman, apparently driven by curiosity or professional instinct, leaned in to get a closer look. This proved to be a critical mistake. The creature, realizing it had a captive audience, made a sudden, explosive movement. It launched itself upward from the water with tremendous force. What happened next defies conventional explanation. Instead of falling back into the water, as any fish or marine mammal would do, it appeared to glide through the air. For several seconds, and multiple witnesses confirmed this, the creature moved through the air as if propelled by wings or some other means of propulsion we don't understand. The crew stood frozen on the deck, unsure whether what they had just witnessed belonged to the ocean or the sky. To this day, no scientific explanation has been confirmed. No marine biologist we consulted would even hypothesize what mechanism would allow such a creature to achieve sustained flight. The coast of Mumbai, India. A fishing couple, husband and wife, fishing partners for over 20 years, was working the shallow waters near shore using traditional nets. They planned to sell their catch at the morning market, as they had done hundreds of times before. But on this particular morning, something was waiting for them in the water. The net feels full tonight. A good catch, perhaps. Yes. But something feels different. Did you notice? When they began pulling in the net, they immediately noticed something unusual. Something alive inside was moving with far too much deliberation, too much intelligence. This wasn't the random flopping of a caught fish. This was purposeful movement. As they lifted the net, a strange humanoid sea creature appeared, staring back at them. For a moment, there was absolute silence. Man and creature, locked in mutual recognition. Both stunned, both confused. And then the creature's eyes, large, dark, and impossibly intelligent, focused on the fisherman's face. It stared at him, really stared, with what could only be described as conscious awareness. Before the man could even respond, the water around their boat began to change. Ripples started forming, not from wind, not from any natural cause, but as if something beneath the surface was moving. Something large, multiple somethings. Dark shapes surfaced one by one, surrounding the small boat on all sides. They moved silently, deliberately, in what appeared to be a coordinated pattern. The couple realized, with dawning horror, that they were no longer alone. They were surrounded. The wife immediately understood what was happening. This wasn't just one creature. This was a family, a pod, a hunting unit, and they had just captured one of their own. Realizing they were in extreme danger, the couple released the creature immediately. They cut the nets if necessary, doing whatever it took to free it back into the water. The moment the first creature was released, the surrounding shapes began to pull back. Within seconds, they had vanished completely. The couple fled toward shore at full speed. Their hands were shaking so badly they could barely steer. To this day, neither of them has ever returned to that location. They don't fish those waters anymore, and when asked about what they saw, they refused to speak in detail, fear still evident in their eyes. The question remains, was that an attack or a rescue? The North Atlantic near Iceland, one of the most hostile marine environments on Earth. Commercial fishing crews work here because the rewards are enormous, but so are the risks. Storms can appear without warning. The cold can kill a man in minutes. This footage was recorded by a professional fishing crew with decades of combined experience. What they captured baffled marine experts around the world. The crew was hauling a deep-sea net when they caught something that didn't resemble any known species. Even on first glance, even in the dim lighting, something was fundamentally wrong about this creature. What is that? That's not a normal catch. The creature's body structure appeared fundamentally wrong. Its limbs were bent at angles that shouldn't be possible. Its spine curved in ways that would be fatal to most vertebrates. And its eyes, they reflected light differently than any fish or marine mammal. The reflection was too intelligent, too aware. The crew attempted to contain it, to bring it aboard for documentation. But before authorities could even be notified of the catch, the creature suddenly tore free from the net with explosive force. It moved with such velocity that no one could react. It disappeared beneath the waves in seconds, leaving behind a destroyed net and a crew in shock. Marine experts later admitted they had absolutely no explanation for what was captured on this footage. When shown images of the creature, several prominent marine biologists refused to comment. One researcher told us, off the record, that the creature's skeletal structure suggested it was something that shouldn't exist, something that violated evolutionary biology. He also suggested, in the same off-the-record conversation, that we should stop looking for answers. Some questions, he said, are dangerous to pursue. The South China Sea, one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world, a region where ancient legends of mermaids have been documented for centuries. But legends are just stories, right? Fiction to explain the unexplained? A large fishing vessel had just completed a successful haul when something unexpected appeared in the net. Something that transformed the entire operation from routine to catastrophic in seconds. The crew noticed arms, fingers, and a partially human face emerging from the net alongside the fish. For a moment, everyone froze. What they were seeing didn't make sense. It couldn't make sense. Then panic spread. Shouts filled the air as the creature became aware of the crew around it. It began ripping through the net with desperate, primal strength. Each movement was violent and calculated. This creature didn't want to be captured. It wanted to escape, and it was willing to do whatever it took. In the chaos that followed, no one thought to stop it. No one tried to recapture it. Everyone was focused on survival, on not becoming tangled in the net themselves, on not being clawed or bitten by this creature that seemed to have emerged from nightmare. Seconds later, the creature was gone. It slipped back into the ocean as if it had never been there at all. The crew was left shaken and silent, staring at the torn net, wondering if what they'd just experienced was real. The official report filed with maritime authorities simply stated, "Unidentified creature. Escaped during processing." No details. No investigation. Just a bureaucratic brush-off. The Adriatic coast of Croatia. A fisherman was recording himself while checking his nets, as he had done hundreds of times before. This particular recording, however, captures something that suggests these creatures might understand technology, might understand us. Another good day for fishing. Let me see what we have. When he pulled up a strange humanoid sea creature, the fisherman did what any modern person would do. He instinctively raised his phone to film it, to document it, to prove that he'd encountered something extraordinary. That's when something truly unsettling happened. The creature reacted directly to the phone, not to the fisherman, not to the boat, to the phone specifically. It became agitated. Its eyes, which had been darting around, assessing the situation, locked onto the camera lens. And then it attacked. It reached out and struck the phone away with surprising accuracy, knocking it from his hand and sending it spiraling into the water. The camera captured footage of the sky, the sea, and then darkness as it sank. Later, when the fisherman recovered his phone from a nearby beach, he found the footage intact, and he reported something that would stay with him for the rest of his life. It felt, he said, like the creature understood what was happening, that it knew it was being recorded, that it didn't want its world exposed. Think about the implications of that. A creature that understands technology, that understands the concept of being recorded, that makes a conscious choice to prevent documentation. If true, these aren't just animals. They're something far more dangerous. They're something intelligent. The Sea of Japan. This footage is one of the most disturbing clips in this entire collection. We've included it because we believe people deserve to know the truth, no matter how horrifying that truth might be. An Asian fishing crew was conducting an overnight fishing trip, a routine operation, a normal night at sea. What happened next is neither routine nor normal. The first indication that something was wrong came when the crew's net became impossibly heavy. Not heavy with fish. Heavy with something else. Something that was moving. Something that was fighting back. As they began to bring it up, they heard it. A sound that would change the atmosphere of the entire operation. When the creature broke the surface, panic consumed the entire crew. What we see in the footage is mostly chaos movement. Screaming. Something moving just out of frame. The video shakes violently. We hear desperate shouting, we hear that unholy sound again. And then silence. The footage ends abruptly. Whatever was about to happen, it was either too horrific to be recorded, or the person recording was no longer able to continue. Days later, the boat returned to shore by itself. The engines were still running. The boat was drifting, moving in circles as if guided by some external force. But the crew members, all 10 of them, were gone. The Coast Guard conducted a search and rescue operation, but not a single body was ever recovered. Only the camera remained, still recording, still documenting the empty boat as it drifted through the dark water. The official report listed them as lost at sea due to unknown causes. An investigation was opened but never completed. The files were sealed 3 months later. No explanation was ever offered. None was ever demanded. The Philippine Sea, another encounter. This one is notable because it suggests something we've been seeing repeatedly throughout these recordings. These creatures don't hunt alone. They coordinate. They communicate. They rescue each other. A fishing crew managed to capture a mermaid-like creature in their net. But moments after doing so, they noticed something else. Something that would make them immediately regret their catch. They had captured something extraordinary. What they didn't realize was that capturing one creature meant alerting the others. There's something below us. Shapes. Multiple shapes. Dark shapes began circling the boat beneath the surface. The water churned unnaturally. Whatever these creatures were, they were organized. They were deliberate. And they were absolutely focused on the boat. Realizing they were in immediate danger, the crew made a decision. They released the captured creature, without hesitation, without delay. They cut the nets if necessary, doing whatever it took to free it back into the water. And the moment they did, something remarkable happened. The surrounding shapes, the other creatures, vanished. Completely, as if they had never been there at all. Many who have studied this footage believe this was not an attack. This was a rescue, a coordinated extraction, an underwater family protecting one of their own. It suggests a level of social complexity and communication that we've always associated with higher mammals. Dolphins, whales, primates. It suggests these creatures might be far more intelligent than we ever imagined. The Black Sea. Along its coastline, a fisherman and his wife encountered something that challenges everything we think we know about communication across species barriers. They pulled something alive from their net. What stared back at them had a face, expressions, blinking eyes, visible awareness. This creature made no attempt to attack. It made no violent movements. It simply looked at them, watched them, existed in that moment of mutual recognition. And in that moment, both the fisherman and the creature seemed to reach the same understanding. Without hesitation, without argument, they released the creature back into the water. Fear took over all other emotions. Whatever they had just witnessed, that conscious awareness, that undeniable intelligence, was too much to process. The creature disappeared instantly. It has never been seen again except in this footage. The couple never returned to those waters. They never spoke publicly about what they witnessed, and friends report they refused to discuss it even in private. But in interviews we conducted, we could see the lingering trauma, the knowledge that they had made eye contact with something that was undeniably sentient, something that was equal to them in terms of consciousness and awareness. The footage is brief, but it's perhaps the most important in this collection, because it doesn't show violence or chaos or terror. It shows recognition. It shows intelligence looking back at intelligence. And sometimes that's far more terrifying than any attack could be. The Arabian Sea shows a far different type of encounter. This one is perhaps more unsettling than any of the violent captures we've documented. Because this creature wasn't fighting, it was doing something else entirely. It was singing. While night fishing, a crew noticed a beautiful mermaid-like figure near their boat. Her movements were slow, graceful, almost hypnotic. She wasn't trying to escape. She wasn't threatening anyone. She was simply there, watching them. And then she began to sing. The sound captured on the ship's audio system is haunting. It's melodic. It's complex. It's absolutely beautiful. For several minutes, the crew listened. They couldn't move. They couldn't speak. They could only listen to this creature, singing what sounded like a complex musical composition. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the song ended. What happened next is documented in the ship's log. When the sun rose, the crew attempted to account for everyone on board. Every single member of the crew was found asleep on deck. None of them could be awakened. Medical personnel had to be called. Doctors were baffled. The crew members had no injuries, no signs of chemical exposure, no medical explanation for their unconsciousness. They woke up 17 hours later with no memory of falling asleep, no memory of what happened after the song ended. The mermaid was gone. Only the footage remained. The question this raises is terrifying in its implications. What did this creature do? How did it render an entire crew unconscious through song alone? And perhaps more importantly, what was she trying to do? Was she trying to communicate? Or was she putting them to sleep so that others of her kind could approach the boat undetected? Near the mouth of the Amazon River, fishermen trapped a strange creature that appeared to be an entirely different variation of the species. In this case, the creature was living in a freshwater river system rather than the ocean. This suggests the creatures can survive in multiple aquatic environments. They're adaptable. They're spreading. The fishermen began poking the creature with a stick, trying to provoke a reaction. They wanted to see what it would do. They wanted to understand what they were dealing with. What they got instead was something that none of them were prepared for. An unnatural sound. Deep. Distorted. A sound that seemed to vibrate through the boat itself. It was part growl, part cry, part something else entirely, something that didn't fit into any known category of animal vocalization. Crew members reported afterward that the sound caused physical discomfort, headaches, nausea, a sense of profound wrongness. The crew released the creature shortly after this. They wanted nothing more to do with it. They didn't want to see it again. They didn't want to hear that sound again. And that decision likely saved their lives. The South Atlantic, near the coast of Chile. This footage shows two crew members struggling with a mermaid on the deck of their vessel. The physical contact is visible. The struggle is real. But then something happens that we still can't explain. The footage shows clear physical contact between men and creature. Hands grasping, arms struggling. The creature fighting with intelligent precision, trying to return to the water. And then the footage ends suddenly. Later, the boat was found drifting off the coast of Chile. The vessel was completely empty. All equipment was intact. The engines were still running. But the crew? Gone. All of them. Every single person who had been on that boat had vanished without a trace. The boat's log showed normal entries right up until the moment of the struggle. Then silence. No final entries. No explanation. Just the empty vessel, drifting through the Pacific. The Coast Guard declared it an unsolved maritime mystery. But we know what happened. The creature took them.